Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. We're live here at Baumhauers Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Our CBNS Bank media guest joining us now from Channel 42 in Birmingham, Chris Brees. Good to see you, sir. How you doing?
Doing very well. I'm in my 7th year at CBS 42.
Really?
And I'm to the point now where I get all my years mixed up with what happened this season with this game and what was the score of this and who was playing on this snap. You remember it all in general, but I'm sure, as you know, who's been in the business way longer than I have, it all mixes together. Yeah,
but we've got lots to talk about tonight. You've been in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where the Hogs play. You've been in Medford, Oregon, where I dare say they follow the Ducks and Oregon State's Beavers.
Good memory.
College football in those different regions of the country versus what we have here. The same, different?
Oregon's nowhere near the level of anywhere in the SEC. I'm sorry to say that. It's just the truth. Arkansas fans, they're passionate. They're very passionate. I was there during the Brett Bielema. Petrino actually got fired about 4 months before I got there, so you know how that went.
Yeah.
What I have found in Arkansas, and I was told this right when I moved, it's different. It's very different. You're going to see, and I was like, whatever. You're just telling me that. It's true. I mean, people love it and breathe it every day, and you can see why, because the man walking in right now, people are giving him the standing ovation.
Sure. Coach Nick Saban making his way in. And, of course, you also, collegiately, you were at the University of Michigan. You got a master's at Southern Cal. So, again, a couple of big hotbeds of college football.
Yeah. Michigan fans are passionate as well. Big-time rivalries everywhere. I will say, every rivalry is big when you talk about Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama and Auburn, and Texas, Oklahoma, whoever you want to add in. Alabama and Auburn, the people, they take it personally every day. And that's probably the one difference I've seen with all of it.
Yep. Coach Saban has joined us now here at Baumhauers. Miss Terry here in front. Hello, Coach. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good, good. It's always nice to see that smiling face of Miss Terry and all of her friends. She has the table directly in front of us here. Folks who support Nick's kids, who help out in all the foundation work. It takes a village of people, as they say.
Yeah, it sure does, and we've had some great support, and Miss Terry's done a fantastic job with it, and I've enjoyed that smiling face for almost 50 years. Pretty soon.
There you go. Oh, there you go. And a little blushing and fluttering heart right there. You're smooth, man. You're smooth.
My wife's here. We've only been married 3 years. So I guess let's start it off nice and smoothly. What is the key to success? Because everybody asks the question and everybody has a different response to it. How do you keep your wife happy?
I think you have to work every day at relationships, regardless of who those relationships are with. And I think when you're married, you have to respect the other person and respect their feelings and try to do things that they expect from you, and in turn they do the same for you. You're really kind of best friends. You do a lot of things together. You talk about a lot of things. So I can't really sit here and say I've had to try hard to make it work, but I do think you have to work at relationships because you have to really sort of always think about the other person. We're all a little self-absorbed and we always think of how things affect us, but sometimes in relationships you got to think of, how is what I'm doing affecting somebody else, and especially when they're that close to you. So, it hasn't been work, it's been fun.
Yeah.
My wife's right there, by the way. Her name's Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
You've heard of Dr. Phil. We've got Dr. Nick right here, but it's exactly what he's saying, though. The man knows of what he speaks. How about the relationship with your players this week? Everybody paying close heed to what you've had to say?
Well, we'll find out. I'm sure of that. But in life, you basically get what you deserve, and most of the time that comes from what you tolerate from yourself. in terms of how do you hold yourself to a certain standard in terms of how you go about what you do and how you try to make people do and be the best that they can be. Because if a player is not creating value for Alabama, he's not really creating value for himself. So,
exactly.
You know, it's important that these guys be the best version of themselves in everything that they do. And I'm certainly not going to apologize, and I told them that this week. I'm not apologizing for trying to make you the best that you can be as a person, as a student, and as a player. And, you know, we can still accomplish, you know, everything that we wanted to accomplish, but, you know, you got to respond from the edge of the cliff. You know, there's no more room for error. And if you do things the way you've always done them, you're going to get the same results guaranteed. So that could be good if you're doing things the right way, but it also can be bad if you're not doing things the right way. Mm-hmm. And basically, you know, we helped the other team quite a bit, not to take anything away from them. Their players played good. They played hard. But, you know, we didn't prepare. You know, when you don't prepare well and you're not confident going in, then, you know, there's a certain level of anxiety that you play with, and this anxiety affects your decision-making, your judgment, and just about everything that you do. That's when you start dropping balls. That's when you're a little bit off on this. That's when you throw it when you should have handed it off. I mean, defensive backs don't look at the right things, and they get fooled, and all of a sudden you look bad and somebody's wide open, or you didn't cover somebody man-to-man like you should have because you didn't look at the right things. So, you know, all these things kind of, you know, create a cumulative effect of errors, mistakes, and things that contribute to not playing well.
Yeah.
And we didn't play well as a team. I'm responsible for that. We're certainly working hard to try to get it right. We'll see how the players respond to it. But, you know, if they don't respond the right way, you know, great competitors can always sort of deliver their best when their best is needed. And if you don't prepare the right way and you don't practice the right way and create the right habits for yourself, you're not going to be able to do that when the time comes. And, you know, the one thing, having Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan talk to our teams in the past and listen to them, and I think those guys are probably as good a competitors
Sure.
that in my lifetime that I can sort of recall. You know, those guys were all driven to be the best, and they worked really, really hard to be the best. And I'm sure people that saw The Last Dance, you know, saw that of Michael Jordan. He almost drove his teammates to dislike him because his standard was so high and he worked so hard and he pushed them to be the same as he was. And some of them didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so, but he was a great competitor, and, you know, Kobe's whole time he was here, all he talked about was, you know, how he worked to be the very best that he could be. And, you know, they don't put it on ESPN that I worked 365 days for 8 hours a day to get ready to play the season, but that's what it meant to him. And, you know, so people have to be committed and have a sense of purpose in terms of what they want to do, how they want to do it. And if you don't do it that way, you're probably not going to have the kind of success that you'd like to have. I think when the game comes, and this is what I told our players, you know, when a game comes, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to do well. All right, but if you didn't do the things you needed to do to get ready to play the game, that becomes really, really difficult to do, especially when you play against really good competition in really tough environment. So, you know, the question is how did it make you feel? That's the first question. And the second question is how did you contribute to it? And the third question is how will you respond to it? So, and all those things to me are going to be very telling about what kind of character we have on the team. And certainly, you know, successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people won't do. And that's something that we have to prove that you know, we want to do. You know, it was interesting. I had a call last night with a recruit on Zoom, and of course I'm not allowed to mention any names or anything. And these people were from somewhere else other than the United States, so I don't want to be too specific here.
Okay.
And I never met the people before, and never talked to the parents, never talked to the recruit before, other than on the phone. And when I got finished, you know, with my recruiting spiel, the dad, who's never been to the United States that I know of, says, I know the Alabama standard.
Really?
So just thinking about all the things that I've been talking about, and I said, well, what is that to you? It's the first time I ever met this guy.
Sure.
And he said, you guys do things right with all your might.
Nice.
So I said, okay. So I actually told the team that today. And I said, are you doing that? Can you honestly say that's what you're doing? Is that what you do every day? Is that what you've done all season long? Is that what you're doing every day? Personally, is that what you're doing in school? Is that what you're doing as a football player? And if you're not, you're leaving lots of money on the table because you're not really being the best that you can be. You're not doing everything you do to create value for yourself as a person, as a student, or as a player. So, and again, I'm not apologizing for trying to make you do that.
Sure. That sounded like your conversation with Jesse Williams' dad, didn't it? You didn't really know the guys well at all, and they're far away, and next thing you know, he's talking all about Alabama.
But, the thing about that is that the players have to realize there's 14 years worth of players that created that image of what people think of this program and what they think of the team and how the team plays and how the team competes. 14 years of players.
Yeah.
Lots of great players. 75 of them playing in the NFL right now, and a lot more that did play that aren't playing now. But they created a culture. And, we all have a responsibility and obligation to continue to live up to that culture. That's why you came here. I had players stand up this week and say, I came here because of the Alabama standard, and challenge other people to say, is that really what we're doing here?
And I've got to think, and correct me, as impactful as your comments are, from this man's eyes, you're the greatest coach of all time. But when a teammate stands up and gets in your face, when a Will Anderson stands up and looks at somebody and says, hey, man, that's got to be as impactful, if not more so, with all due respect to you. When a peer stands up, man, that tells you something.
I think it's much more impactful. I think peer intervention, peer pressure, players will always respond to that much more than they will. Look, eventually, when you're the coach and you keep harping on the same things, they quit listening. It goes in one ear and out the other. All right? So, but when somebody on the team and their teammates say it, I think it has a much greater impact because they really don't want to be looked at by their peers as not doing things the way they should be doing them, or in their eyes to the standard that they should. So it'll be interesting to see how the team responds.
It really will. We're going to come right back. We've got Pee Wee on the phone waiting. We've got Tommy in Leeds. We'll hear more from Chris Brees, our special media guest. We are live at Baumhauers Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Glad you're with us on the Nick Saban Show here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Price brings Williams in motion. He'll go to the right side. Protection. Price looks, throws left side. Nice lead. Williams out of the backfield. Dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. A 20-yard play. A beautiful lead pass by Bryce Young to his running back, Roydell Williams, coming out of the backfield. First receiving touchdown of the year for Roydell as we welcome you back to Baumhauers Victory Grill. This segment of the Nick Saban Show is presented by Royal Furniture. Family owned and operated for 75 years. Royal Furniture has locations in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Memphis, and Jackson, Tennessee for your shopping convenience. Chris Brees is our media guest, sports director from WIAT, CBS 42 in Birmingham. Why don't you jump right in and get this segment going?
It seems like the common theme of player interviews this week was the leaders saying we had a lot of guys not prepared, not doing the stuff that you had spent the last 15 minutes talking about doing. I was curious, do you go into certain Saturdays feeling that way, that our team is not into it today, our team is not prepared, and then other Saturdays you feel great about it? What was the case with Texas A&M? Does that happen on random weekends?
I think that it's very difficult for a team to be sort of up all the time. And I think that people think emotion is a big part of whether you're up or not up, or however you want to say it. But really, I think it's much deeper than that. I think when you have a sense of purpose in what you want to accomplish, and you're willing to sort of, your character is what motivates you, because you're driven to want to accomplish something that's significant. And when I say people don't respect winning, I think you kind of lose the thought of, we have a lot of guys on our team that never lost a game.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, they'd had to be here not last year, but the year before. Mm-hmm. So they had to actually be in their second or third year here, and they've never lost a game. So you forget the feeling, because sometimes you hate to lose as much as you like to win, and that's a motivating factor. So I think, we kind of played fairly well in the Ole Miss game. We didn't finish the game like we'd like, but we played fairly well in the game against a good team. And for whatever reasons, we just never could get it going. And I felt like that, and I said this on this show last week, that was a little bit of a trap game for us. And the trap is not them. It's your own head.
Right.
Yeah. That's the trap. It's not what you're going into, it's what's in your own head, in terms of how do you respect your opponent, how do you respect what you have to do to be able to win in a difficult environment. And basically, Texas A&M was as good a team as they were a year ago. They lost their quarterback. The guy that came in and played a little better each week, but really struggled, which is why they struggled in the last couple games. They have 15 starters back from a team that went 11-1, and everybody thinks should have been in the playoffs. So they got a really good team, except they lost 2 games, and they're not a ranked team, so everybody thinks, well, maybe they're not so good for whatever reasons. And we go in the game, and because we didn't prepare well, we have a lot of mental errors. And look, I think I didn't do a very good job because I didn't get the players to get where they needed to be so they could play well. And our coaches all had to contribute to that. And the result of that is the players don't play very well, and we don't do the things we need to do. But we still play, we get behind in the game 24-10. And then the score ends up 38-31. So that means we outscored the other team 28-7 over a course of a period of time in the game. And in the last 5 minutes of the game, we lose 10-0. All right, so we had every opportunity to win the game. We were ahead.
Yep.
They scored. We got the ball, went 3 and out, had a chance to go down. With 3 minutes to go in the game, could have taken the clock in the game, kicked a field goal just like they did, and won the game, and went 3 and out. Dropped a pass, that would have been a first down, and continued to drive. So then we didn't stop on defense and had some critical errors in terms of some of the things that we executed on defense in that last drive that would have made a big difference in the game. So there's parts of the game in every game that we've played so far this year where we play like a really good team. And then there's parts of the game where we don't. So we don't sustain very well in terms of the level that we need to play to, whether you want to call it intensity, focus, energy, whatever it might be. And that's something that's got to get better. And I think you develop those habits in practice. When you start to get tired in practice, that's like a cue. Okay, I got to push through this. So when that cue comes, and it's supposed to come every day when you practice, you push through, and then eventually you can push through just about anything when the game comes. But if you don't do that, and you submit to your feelings, and I always say feelings versus choice. I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like practicing. I'm tired. I don't feel like finishing. Then that's what you become. So that's how you respond when that happens in the game. Just like I told the players, and I thought we handled the noise a lot better, and it was a lot louder at A&M than it was at Florida. But I said, I want you, when you go on the field's going to be 53 yards wide and 100 yards deep. And when you go on the field and you hear noise, I want that to be your cue to focus on the guy you're playing against. That should be a cue for you. It shouldn't be something that upsets you or makes you think different. It should be your cue to focus. Just like your cue in practice when you get tired, push through. Then when you get tired in the game, you push through. All right, so all these things are, I talked about reckoning last week. Do the right things, the reckonings are pretty good. So, we'll see how we respond. The players have been better this week. Their attention has been better. They've tried harder, but you got to go play the game with confidence. You got to go play the game and be relaxed and calm in terms of your decision making, because that's the way you work, that's the way you practice. So you're not anxious, you're not making bad choices and decisions, which we have too many of right now.
Yeah. And Mississippi State, I don't have to tell you, forever they give you what you want and more than that. That's always a tough ball game, whether it's here, whether it's in Starkville. And the stats are so unusual. I mean, they run for 56 yards a game and throw for 9,000 yards a game. It looks like it's a good ball club when they're clicking.
No, they're a good team. They're much better than they were a year ago. They play better on defense. And the quarterback's a lot better. He played half the game against us last year, but he was a freshman.
Yeah.
And he's been starting ever since. They've added a couple of new skill guys, a couple transfer guys that are much better receivers than what they had. Their offensive line is better. They're a much better team than we played against a year ago. And the games that they lost were very close. So this will be a very challenging game. They will throw the ball. They've averaged 57 passes a game, so far.
Yeah.
And there's no situation in the game where it's not 80+% pass.
Really?
1st and 10, 2nd and long, 3rd and 2, whatever. It's all 80+.
It's always a pass, yeah.
Ball's on the 1 yard line, still 80% pass. That doesn't mean they won't run it 20% of the time, but that's the way they play. And they do it really, really well. And they've got a good system. And the players are much better at executing the system. If you remember last year, it's a new coach, and you got COVID, so you don't have your team for spring practice. You don't have them as much in the summer. So they were in a whole new system, and they didn't have the proper time to develop in the system. Now they have. And I think they do a really good job of executing it.
Very true. Well, listen, we've got Pee Wee. He's been patiently waiting on the phone as our first phone caller of the evening, brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or visit al811.com. Pee Wee, thank you for your patience, sir. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Eli. Hey, Coach, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, Coach, but I got to say, I'm disappointed at the way some of our fans have reacted since this game. This is your 15th season. You've won 6 national championships, and out of all of those years, you've had 2 undefeated seasons. So, it's not the first time that we've ever lost a football game. It certainly won't be the last. And everything that we want to play for still is in front of us, and we control our own destiny from here until that point. I see people wanting to fire our offensive coordinator. I see people wanting to fire our defensive coordinator. We need to be doing something different on offense. We're not doing the same thing like we did last year. Well, this ain't last year. This ain't the same team. Our fans need to realize what's going on, and they need to support our team, not talk bad about them. I sat through dark years before you got here. I know what it's like. We are proud of everything that you have brought to this college and done for this college. And there's never been a head coach in the history of college football that has had the record that you've had from day one to this point right now. It ain't never happened before. So people need to realize what they have and stop talking bad and support the people and the players. Because they're the ones that go out there and work every day. It ain't us.
Don't need to circle the wagons and shoot inward. That's for darn sure.
Well, I certainly appreciate, everything that you said. But I want you to know that I'm not affected by any of that stuff. First of all, I don't hear what's on the internet. I don't listen to what people have to say. But to me, the thing that's most upsetting to me is I want to do a good job for our players, for the people in the organization, for the people at the university, the people who support the university, which includes the fans. I mean, they all support the university. This is the entertainment business. All right, so a lot of fans are going to have the reactions that they have, but I want everybody out there to know that does not affect or impact me in any way, shape, or form. You know, I think we try to self-assess exactly, you know, what can we do better, what did we do poorly, how can we get our players to do it better, and none of those things impact any decision-making or anything that we do, or even the attitude, you know, that we have in terms of how we go about it, because it's our own pride and performance, you know, that's at stake for me. You know, but I think one thing fans should understand, all right, these guys are college players. And if they were in the locker room after the game and you saw all these guys crying their eyes out because they lost the game, and maybe they lost the game because they weren't mature enough to do the things they needed to do to win the game, and we all need to help them fix that. But it means a lot to the people who work all the time, the coaches, the people who invest their time. When we don't have success, don't think you feel worse than we do. I mean, we feel really, really bad about the outcome of what we do and how we do it and how hard we work to try to get the outcome that we want and the outcome that you want. And, you know, we're going to continue to try to do that, but I think that when people are positive and you send positive vibes and positive messages and people know that you're a team that is, you know, really together in terms of how you go about your work and what you do, which includes the fans and the supporters, you know, that's going to help the program long term in terms of continuing to be successful, because that's the kind of organization, you know, people want to be a part of. And I'm talking about recruits and people that want to come here and all that. So if you want to continue to have a good team and you want to continue to have a good program, we don't mind the criticism. You have every right to do that. But just understand that if you are positive about your university, positive about the athletic department, the athletic program, and the teams that we have and the players that have chosen to come here and represent you and work their tail off to try to do it in a positive way. If you can be supportive of them, we'll have a much better chance of being successful long term as an institution and an organization.
Well said, well said. Pee-wee, thanks for your call. And by the way, you talk about great things about the university. Just watching on the big screen here, O.J. Howard, former Crimson Tider, just catching a touchdown pass in the game between the Bucs and the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to come right back, more with the coach right after these messages here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Constantino will punt it away for the second time tonight. JoJo Earl, the freshman from Alito, Texas, as it's blocked by Alabama and rolls into the end zone, covered by the Crimson Tide for a touchdown. Covered by Alabama. It was King Makuta who falls on top of the football, and Alabama gets the huge play they were looking for. Corey Brooks with the block, King Makuta with the cover for the touchdown. And that was a big special teams play for the Crimson Tide. We welcome you back. The Nick Saban Show on the air from Tuscaloosa. Our media guest is Chris Brees with a question. Go ahead, sir.
Coach, I do a NIL podcast with freshman Kendrick Blackshire, and we talk throughout the entire year. One thing that has struck me about our conversations is freshmen truly grasping the one thing that changes in their lives from high school to college is learning time management and finding that 30 minutes in their day where they can relax and decompress, where they have a decision. And you talk a lot about making decisions for the best choice for you. How do your players develop throughout their entire time with time management? Because that's the one thing that blows them away, these freshmen, where they say, I have to figure this out.
Well, I think that most of the guys have not been involved in the structure like we have here. And it's not the structure, I'm not talking about the football part of the structure, they've pretty much been involved in. It's being responsible to go to class, being responsible to use the resources that we have academically for them, to get tutors, to be in study table, to have support. And these things all take time. And when you talk about time management, to lay out your day and say, okay, I have 2 classes today, I have 2 tutoring appointments, I have to be at the football office at 2 o'clock till 5:45 because that's when meetings and practice is, and then I have to study tonight. They have a hard time sort of compartmentalizing these responsibilities that are necessary for them to be successful. And they've never had the kind of support around them. In other words, I never had a tutor before. I never had anybody helping me to make sure I did things the right way relative to study table or whatever it is. So I think that's the difficult thing, for most of them. And I also think that a lot of guys that we recruit probably haven't had to be this responsible and accountable to anything. I don't know that it's always a good thing that just because you're good as an athlete, you don't have to do things the right way in terms of being a person, going to class, being responsible, in your classes so that you can be accountable for what you're supposed to do. So a lot of it is a little bit different mindset. And we support our guys in a lot of ways that they're not really used to. Like we have a lot of personal development programs. The guys aren't used to that. We're trying to get them to develop good personal habits. We have a lot of guys on our team that have sleep issues. They have sleep apnea. They don't know it. They don't get any rest. And then we have a lot of guys that get what I call dirty sleep. They stay up too late. They're on the internet all night. They're playing video games. Then they can't get up and go to class the next day. So all these things are a part of how can you organize your day and your time when you don't even start sleeping the right way. And then sometimes they don't eat the right way. But it's the structure that they're not used to. But when you have structure, you still have time to do things. I have time, like tonight when I get home, I'll talk to a recruit after this. And then it'll be about 8:15 or 8:30, and then I got a little bit of time. So that's my 2 hours and a half. Last night I had 2 hours and a half. I have no time on Sunday. I have no time on Monday. I have no time on Tuesday. So I compartmentalize my 5 hours a week that I have at home, and that's my time. That's it. That's my time.
Is he playing video games?
No.
With his time?
He's doing the dishes? I gotcha. That's this Terry checking in. Coach, over here to our left, a gentleman at the restaurant with a question. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Good. Coach Saban, with the younger secondary this week as we go against Mississippi State's air raid offense, we've had some success with interceptions and turnovers so far this year. So how do you look to see that continue this week, and what can we be excited about on the defensive side?
Well, I think the big thing is you got to execute together as a team. I think what people sometimes misinterpret about pass defense is it's all 11 guys. It's what kind of pass rush do you get? It's how do you cover, how do you break on the ball in zone, how do you play man-to-man. Whatever the scheme is, all 11 guys have to do it. And it's going to take 3 guys rushing, 4 guys rushing, 5 guys rushing, blitzing, disguising, doing all kinds of things together as a group. And all 11 guys, you're going to be spread out on the field. They're going to have 4 wideouts in a game almost all the time. And they're running some really tough routes to defend. And everybody has to be on the same page in terms of how are we playing these routes and how are we doing these things. And we got to get enough rush to make the ball come out on time. You got to break on the ball when you're playing zone. You got to tackle well in space. You can't let these guys catch the ball short and run with it. And then when you do get opportunities to get off field on third down, you got to be able to deny the ball and do it. So this is really a game where it's all about passing. It reminds me a lot when I was in the NFL and we played Houston in our division when I was at Cleveland, and they were the run and shoot. So they were four wideouts all the time. And you played 6 defensive backs the whole game, which was, different than anything else you did. But the players' ability to adapt to that offense and play those plays, which is so much different all right, than a normal game is really key to the drill. And, last year we did a halfway decent job against it, but the problem is when you play 6 defensive backs, it's hard to have a backup at every position. So one guy couldn't go down, and that kind of sets that because you need to have repetitions at those positions and see those routes over and over and over so that you can match those routes. Well, now when you take this piece out, put a new piece in, and this piece has to go over here and play, he didn't see all those routes. All right, so that's the issue when you got to play 6 DBs is having enough depth that if something happens, the other guys can get in there. You made a point, though, that we've really been harping on with our players is we have interceptions this year. We only have 1 fumble recovery, in 6 games, which is unheard of. And we're not causing fumbles. We're not attacking the ball on defense. And I think when you play a team like this that has so many loose plays, I call them loose plays. They're not running, the ball up the middle. Everything's out here and on the perimeter. You have to attack the ball in space, and you have to create turnovers. It's a really important part of playing a game like this. So there's a lot of factors, but getting turnovers is a big one. And not turning the ball over is also a big one, which last week was the first time that I can remember that we didn't win the turnover battle in a game. Yeah. We only got 1 turnover, and they got 2, so we were negative. And, every week I show a chart to the players. What's the record of all the teams in the country that have -3 turnovers?
Not good.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Horrible, as Terry would say. All right, how many -2? Horrible. -1? Horrible. Even. So-so. And when you get in the plus category, that's where all the good teams are. And that's going to be real critical in a game like this as well.
Definitely. Thank you for your question, sir. We appreciate it. Coach, a question from the Nick Saban Show blog on AL.com. This is from Larry in Fayette, Alabama. Says, other than the obvious answer of rest for the players, how big of an advantage is it to have a bye week prior to playing your next opponent?
I've been asked that question a lot. And, rest is always important, especially at this juncture in the season when everybody's played 5 or 6 games and you play them in a row. I think it does tend to wear players down a little bit.
Sure.
So from a physical standpoint and a recovery standpoint, I think a bye week is probably good. But I also think that sometimes when you're playing really well as a team and you're in a good rhythm, that sometimes when you disrupt that rhythm of playing a game every week, doing what you do on Monday, do what you do on Tuesday, throughout the course of the week, when you disrupt that, sometimes you lose some of that momentum. You lose some of that rhythm in terms of, how things are going. So sometimes I think it can be an advantage for your team. Sometimes maybe not so much. So, but, I know people get all upset because lots of teams have bye weeks before they play us, but I don't really worry too much about the other team because just every game that we've ever played, it really comes down to what we do. Just like this last game. It came down to what we did. We control what we do. I don't care if they had a month off. If we do what we're supposed to do, we'll be fine. So we got to control what we control. And I know how people think about that because I hear them complain to me all the time. Oh, this team has a bye week before they play us. Ole Miss had a bye week before they played us. So what? I mean,
you do your job.
We can only control what we can control. All right? And we can control how we play and how we perform and how we execute as a team. All right? And that's what we should stay focused on. That's external factor. What the other team's doing.
That's Coach Nick Saban. We're coming right back with more from Baumhauers Victory Grill in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Here now is a 1st and goal from the 7th, throw near side. Williamson makes the catch. He is in for a touchdown. Everybody's waiting. They're looking around. Did they hear a whistle? Did they see a flag? Jamison Williams was alone near side. Touchdown, Alabama. Touchdown, Alabama.
5th touchdown reception of the year for Jamison Williams as we welcome you back to the Nick Saban Show. Brought to you in part tonight by New Coke Zero Sugar. New look, improved taste. New Coke Zero Sugar. Chris Brees, jump right in, sir.
Coach, I think I can speak for college football fans in general because I tend to do this myself. It's a flaw that we look at teams and we correlate who they just beat. Okay, take Mississippi State and Texas A&M, for example. Well, A&M barely beats Colorado. They get slaughtered by Arkansas, and then they lose to Mississippi State. They're supposed to lose to you. Well, then here come the Bulldogs. Okay, what are we supposed to think of them? We have no idea. Can you tell me why, in a simplistic answer, you coaches know way more about this than fans do, why can you throw out every single game anyone's played before this week out the window?
Yeah, because that's why you play games. I mean, all teams have good players. And games and outcomes of games are determined by probably 70 or 80 plays of execution on offense, 70 or 80 plays of execution on defense. And all teams have players who can make plays. All right, so the whole reason you go out and play, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, any sport, is you're matching your ability to execute against their ability to execute successfully. And there's a lot of things that contribute to that. And we've talked about a lot of those things tonight. So that's why you play the games. And psychologically, having a reason to be motivated to play a game, whether it's what you want to accomplish as a team long term. Like our team last year had a great sense of purpose, man. I didn't feel like there was ever a game that we played all year long that the players weren't excited about playing and really wanted to play. That was the character of that team. All right, they were upset because we didn't finish the year before like we wanted to. We didn't get in the playoffs. Tua got hurt. We lost at Auburn. We didn't get in the SEC championship game. We played in the Capital One Bowl and against Michigan. So those players were really upset with what they had not accomplished. So we had an older team. Lots of guys came back and didn't go out for the draft. We had good leadership on the team, and they had a tremendous sense of purpose in terms of what they wanted to prove and accomplish and do. So their motivation was internal, right, which is what you want it to be, not external, not what somebody else says or somebody else thinks or this guy, cut my head off and carried it down the road like somebody did. I mean, that's external. Right? You're doing it because you really want to do it, so it's not an emotional thing. It's an inherent motivation that you have to really go out and prove something. So once you don't have that, or if you don't have it, or you don't sort of invent that in your soul and your system internally to want to do that, and you get satisfied and you get complacent because you did it last year, so it's going to be hard, so now we're going to look for an easy way to do it this year, and there isn't an easy way to do it. So then consequently, you don't have the same kind of consistency in performance that you'd like to have. So I don't think there's anybody that we play in our division who couldn't beat us. I said that before the Texas A&M game. I'm saying it before the Mississippi State game. And anybody who just looks at scores and thinks that this game or that game is going to determine the outcome, I think I said this before. We're a speck of time between the past and the present. And just because what happened in the past doesn't have any impact at all what's going to happen in the future. So if you're not controlling what's happening now, you got a chance to get kicked.
Yep.
All right, and that's the way it is. And your ability to do that and your maturity to understand that is very, very important when you're in a competitive sports environment, because you got to be at your best all the time, and that's very, very difficult to do.
Coach, time for your final word of the evening, presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Well, I feel like in a lot of ways, this past game, we're no longer viewed as an elite team. So what I'm hopeful of is that our players are going to respond in a way that they go out and play with more consistency. I hope everybody supports them in a positive way, and that we play with the kind of intangibles that it's going to take for us to be the kind of team that we're capable of, and that we can do it for 60 minutes in a game, which I still don't think we've really accomplished. And I think to beat the teams in our division, that's what it's going to take. And that's something that our players are going to have to decide, our coaches are going to have to decide. We're going to have to get and have an impact on them making those choices and decisions so that we can have the kind of season that we want to have.
Amen to that. Coach, thank you as always for your time. Travel safe to Starkville. We'll see you in a couple days.
All right, thank you.
That's Coach Nick Saban. Chris Brees, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you with us. I enjoyed seeing you do a little news coverage the other night.
When you're put into the spot, you can't say no, and you got to help out the team. It's a team aspect, right? You can preach about team all you want. You got to step in when you have to.
Great to see you, Chris. Thanks for joining us. We're coming right back to wind things up on this Thursday evening. And by the way, don't forget that this Saturday we're on the air at 3 o'clock with the kickoff at 6. The Tide and Mississippi State's Bulldogs being brought to you by VisitPensacola.com. They are the presenting sponsor. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.